Welcome to the BD Sports Talk Podcast, here to give you the latest scoop of sports in the great city of Detroit and the great state of Michigan. This week, we go over a Sunday night tilt in Detroit as the Lions take on the Rams in a playoff rematch. We recap week 1 of the college football season with our Michigan teams. We also give our predictions for week 2 with MSU, Michigan, Western, Eastern, and Central. And as always, the weekly Tigers update. I am one of 3 hosts. Bill, along with me, is the D and E of the BDE.
Whoa.
Brothers, co-hosts, friends.
That's
Dean and
us.
Eddie. Yep, that's you guys. Fellas, good to be back. Couple week break here. Let's get into it, huh?
Yeah. Let's get into it.
All right. Let's go ahead and get started with the Lions. They start their regular season Sunday night against the Rams at Ford Field. Prime time, Goff versus Stafford, Campbell versus McVay. Fellas, how are we feeling going into Sunday night?
I mean, it's an exciting time for football just in general. I don't know how I feel about it because I think the Rams are a pretty good team, just at least offensively. It'll be interesting to see how the crowd really reacts to Stafford when he actually during the regular season. I understood during the playoffs. I mean, even now, I mean, it's a Sunday night game. I mean, it's prime time. I don't know how they're probably still going to chant Jared Goff out there, but I do think that he deserves a little bit, just a little. I'm not saying raise a banner for him, but
they're planning to do a thing, aren't they?
Are they?
Yeah.
Well,
what I understood.
Well, I read today that Stafford was calling out Kirby Joseph for being dirty. So
he's doing that during the NFC Championship game.
Right. Well, he did it again, I guess, this week. So now, Lions fans on the interwebs are like, that guy's the biggest whiner I've ever heard in my life. Mm-hmm. They're like Rich coming from a guy that threw passes intended for people to get injured, receivers to get injured. They said someone said he made a career off throwing passes to get Megatron injured. Not on purpose, but just.
I mean, when you got a 6'5" monster out there, you just throw it up to him and hope he comes down with it. That makes sense. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm excited to see what happens. I feel like the Lions are the better team just in total. But it's the NFL and it's the first week of the season. You're still working off some rust. All of our starters didn't play the entire preseason. But, we'll just see what happens during the first half is when we'll really know how the game's going to go. I mean, at least for the most part. I mean, second half adjustments and whatever, but I do think the Lions are going to take it, but I think it'll be close. I think it'll be a close game.
It'd be fun to watch. I mean, for sure. I mean, I'm excited. What I had seen before was that Stafford was going to get, I think it literally said get his flowers or whatever, it's something we've said before and other people. And they should. I've seen arguments online, people are like, why he didn't win a division title or a playoff game or anything like that. It's like, dude, the guy stood in there every time.
Yeah.
All right. There was a few that he didn't, but I mean, over the course of his career in Detroit, there's nothing wrong with appreciating what a guy did when he was here.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not saying we cheer him on during the game.
Right.
To give the guy a flipping clap, a standing O, a sitting O.
Right.
Before the game, I think it's appropriate. He wasn't just anybody.
Especially if they show some sort of like hype video of him too. I'm sure that would bring the fans around anyway. I mean, because then you start thinking like, it was pretty.
In general, we all agree. Like, we all appreciated what he did when he was here. There was a lot of folks. Yeah, that's how it goes with quarterbacks when your team is wishy-washy. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, he's not the guy or whatever. But it was like, dude, if you've been watching Lions football for the last, for us, 30 plus years, he's as good as we've seen on our team.
Yeah.
So let's just appreciate it.
Yeah.
But whatever. I'm excited for the game. The Lions should win. Like you said, Dean, they're a better team. I think from top to bottom. Well, at least first line. I can't speak to the depth, but I think top to bottom starters, yeah, we're better. We've already beat them, and I think we're better now. So
Right.
they're probably a little better too. But it goes as it goes. So I'm excited for the game. Super excited for football to start. If they lose, it's not the end of the world.
It's the first game of the season.
The Rams are a good team. Okay. Like, it's not like they're going out there against whoever, and seeing what happens. But
and they got a fully healthy Cooper Kupp this time. He's got two. They've got weapons all over the field, and so it'll be interesting.
It was only a rookie too.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's see, man, maybe that transcends into a bigger second year.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Better secondary, I feel like, for the Lions, though.
Supposed to be.
So I would say depth-wise during the preseason, I would say the depth is at least a lot better than it was coming into last year. Just with seeing like Robertson and Rakestraw and even like Vildor. Even Vildor took a little bit of a step up during the preseason. I know these are against second stringers and all that stuff, but he honestly played pretty well. I don't know if he made the roster. I don't believe he made the roster. Did he? Vildor? Did he make the 5th spot?
I believe so.
And he earned it. He played like it during the preseason. So, now that he's our 5th guy and not covering guy, not being our number 1 with all the injuries and stuff, I think you're right, Bill. I think the secondary is better, but there's just question marks still. Like, what are these guys going to do against number 1s? Like Robertson looked really good during preseason, but these are all number 2 receivers. He played the whole game essentially. He better look good against those guys if he wants to be the number 3 or number 2 corner on the team. So, yeah, I do agree with you. I do think they got a little bit better in the secondary.
Yeah, I for what it's worth, I feel like the Lions are a better team this year, and but Dean said it. It's the NFL, and Eddie said there's no reason to panic if they lose.
Right.
It is what it is. I don't see them losing. Any predictions? Scores? I got 27-24.
I had it at 28-21. Lions. That wasn't
24-14.
You like you.
I like it.
Good defensive effort. And then Applebee's afterwards.
Yes, sir.
Great.
Get them boneless, baby.
Real quick before we move on to college football, you guys have an X Factor. Who will be the X Factor for Sunday night?
For the Lions?
Yeah, for Lions.
I don't know if I could pick one, but we already kind of discussed it. I think the X Factor is the entire secondary and what they're going to look like. Because if they can't contain either Cooper or Puka, at least one of them, then it's going to be a long night for them because Stafford's going to be able to throw those balls in there. So, I think that's going to be the major X factor because we don't really know what they're going to look like as a unit yet. So I think that would be the X factor for the game.
So for X factors, we can pick up to 4 or 5 people then.
Yes.
I like to think of it as one group.
Yeah, I picked a group.
Initially in my head, I'm like, okay, Carlton Davis or Terrion Arnold, right? And I was more thinking Arnold because he'll probably have like Nakua, which is probably one of those things. But You look at the other side. I think an easy one to go to is JMO, and seeing what he can do. People keep saying, or camp folks are saying that he's done really well in camp and whatever. We've heard that before, and we've seen what he can do, but we've never seen it on any kind of consistent basis at all. And now the opportunity is fully there. Beginning a season to end, full training camp, no gambling situation. It's just now it's get out there and do it. So to me, at least offensively, he's the X factor. On the other side, it's the entire defense as the X factor.
I was going to say the front four for the defense, because if you can put pressure on Stafford, make him rush throws, that helps the secondary out. And it's kind of revamped with Reader and Marcus Davenport. So, that'll be interesting to see how they rotate with McNeil and James Houston. And you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's looking forward to it, even though I love primetime games, but I hate them too, just because, they
gotta stay up and watch them.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the one. I'm a big fan of the 1 o'clock Sundays.
Yeah. Yeah. Good times.
So, yeah. Not many of those this year.
Yeah.
What real quick, I'm extremely tired of them having the Americans game of the week be the Cowboys every week.
What can you do?
That's their game.
I can't stand it.
I mean, they're my team. America's team.
So, all right. Anyways, well, as the NFL season is getting started tonight with the Ravens and
Chiefs.
Who are they playing? No, the Chiefs.
Yeah, Ravens and Chiefs.
Yeah, Ravens Chiefs. College football took center stage last week in week 1 with a full slate of games. All the Michigan teams played last weekend. Let's start real quick with Eastern. They beat UMass 28-14. Cole Snyder had 241 yards and a touchdown. 60 yards for Mims and a touchdown as well. I don't know if any of us kept track of it at all. I'm just kind of going through. Do you guys have any notes on that at all? I just wanted to put on the scores.
On who?
Eastern
versus UMass. I know they played UMass, but I do feel like the quarterback position is a little bit better. O-line, even maybe a little bit. I know they play, like I said, I know they played UMass, but they didn't have a sack. He didn't throw a pick, and his completion percentage, Snyder's completion percentage was pretty good. So maybe that's just for things that he even had a rushing touchdown as well. So, maybe that's for what's to come, at least for them in the MAC. I don't know what their non-conference schedule looks like, but, it looks like they've upgraded just a little bit, and maybe they'll be a better team than they were last year.
Yeah, it's hard to say. But, I mean, they did a good job. I mean, they controlled the game from beginning to end, really, and only gave up that touchdown with like 3 minutes to go. The second touchdown. So, I mean, they were up 28-7. I don't know nobody knows what UMass is.
Right.
They could be a senior loaded, decent other team, to play a MAC team, or they're dog crap. It's so hard to say, but EMU should feel okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they controlled the game pretty much the whole time. It wasn't close. And then UMass got touchdown at the end. And like in the other stuff you guys are saying about Cole Snyder and everything else, I mean, just a little bit better quarterback play overall.
Yeah. Western lost to Wisconsin 28-14 on Friday. They were actually leading in the fourth. They were up 14-13, I think, early in the fourth. And then Wisconsin scored a couple touchdowns. Hayden Wolf had 141 yards on 12 of 18 passing, 1 interception. Jalen Buckley, 16 carries, 64 yards, 2 touchdowns. Indictment of Wisconsin, or is Western improved?
That's a good question. I think it's a little bit of both. I think Western is a little bit improved. I still think there's a little bit of a question at quarterback for them. Obviously, Buckley is going to be their main source of offense going into the season. Wisconsin wise, it shouldn't have been that close at all, especially at home against Western Michigan, which is kind of the point of them even playing Western in the first week. But then again, it's week 1. You're still knocking off the rust. Guys, those Western Michigan guys were jacked up for this game. Wisconsin guys probably weren't as hyped for it, other than it being a home game in the first game of the season. But for Western, this is a big game for them. If they win this, that gives their guys confidence that they could possibly run the table in the MAC. I mean, you beat a Big Ten school. But I don't know. That's a good question. I think Western is slightly improved. I don't know how much more. It's going to come down to how Hayden Wolf plays during the season.
Yeah, man, for sure. Western, they gave themselves a chance, to win the game, being up by a point in the fourth, but they can eat it. Who cares?
Well, let's get to Central. Central won 66-10, beating Central Connecticut. Joey Labus was 18 of 24, 342 and 3 touchdowns. Miles Bailey had 9 carries for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns. Solomon Davis, 4 catches for 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. Good home win. Good home win for the Chips.
Missed the beginning. What happened with Marion Lukes?
No idea. No idea.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know if they had said. I caught the end of the broadcast, like the most of the last half, but
good win for them. Good home opener, good tune-up for the season. So moving on to Michigan State, they beat Florida Atlantic 16-10 in a game that was at times rough to watch. Childs was 10-24, 114 yards and 2 interceptions. Adams had 9 carries for 101 yards and a touchdown. He was probably the one bright spot.
Yeah.
On the day.
Offensively for sure. Yeah.
Offensively. He was locked in. His face just locked in the whole time, which is good to see. I don't really have much to say on MSU, just because it was a rough watch. I watched the whole game. They're still in a rebuilding. You know what I mean? It's going to take time. I think they'll just keep getting better over the course of the year. Childs looked a little rough. A little rough at times.
He's 18-year-old kid,
So
they said that a lot.
They did. And I'm going to latch onto that.
You might as well.
He's just a kid, man. Leave that boy alone.
Your guys' thoughts on Friday night?
Yeah, it was definitely a tough watch offensively. I thought the defense played really good. They held up their end of the bargain the entire night. Other than a couple of targeting calls that were the first one, definitely. I don't know if they really called the other ones targeting, but it's tough because that guy I don't remember, Fauscher, I think that was the quarterback's name. He was diving weird, kind of like a jump slide type of thing. So it's hard to really judge when you're all going full speed like that and to not try and hit these guys. But I thought defensively, if it felt like they were trying to give the game away at times. If FAU had a quarterback that could have throw the football, I don't know if they even win that game. And a lot of that comes down to just offensively. they just had no chemistry. Childs and the receivers had zero chemistry out there, and you could see it. I mean, he was throwing balls that were to routes that the guy, like option routes that the guys weren't running, and to be honest, I mean, I thought he threw a pretty nice looking ball, like spiral wise, it had good zip on it. Just sometimes it wasn't where it needed to be. I also thought he would go to Velling a lot more early just because they have that connection from Oregon State. But I don't know I think he threw him the ball like 2 times in the first half. So, and it was interesting. One was like really low. I don't know if that was in the second half. Yeah. He threw one at his ankles. I mean, it was interesting. I don't know if he was just overhyped because this, even though they're playing FAU, I mean, he's in a big conference now at a big school where there's, and people have been putting, not huge expectations on them, but some expectations to be at least an 8-win team. I heard that a lot too, is people are thinking of them as an 8-win team, and if they play like that, they're not going to be an 8-win team, at least offensively. I mean, unless you want to pull an Iowa and just play 13-10 games all year, and that's not how you want to win games necessarily. So we'll see what going in. I think they have an FCS school next week, or Prairie View A&M this week.
No, Maryland.
Maryland. Oh, yeah. We'll see what happens. They definitely cannot play like that against Maryland. So Jonathan Smith's going to have to figure something out offensively and get his guys together, whether that be throwing extra passes or whatever the case is. But they really need to figure out their receiving room and who their guy is going to be, because it just really felt like they didn't know who their number one receiver was going to be throughout the game. At least that's what it felt like to me. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
You're right. I think it was great that it happened. Hopefully, because it's a lot like a scrimmage, right? Mm-hmm. You send your team out there, you run the stuff you've been working on, and then you see it and you're like, dang, that wasn't how we thought it was going to go. And then you see what you needed to work on and go from there. Right. So, Childs and the receivers are like, okay, if you see this, I'm expecting you to do this now.
Right.
Now, granted, does that work every time when you go out there and do it? No, because you don't always see the same things, but it should be better. I would like to see better run blocking. I know, K-Ron had 109 yards, but 60 of those were on one run.
Yeah.
So it's give and take. I wanted to see more out of them. I definitely wanted to see more out of the Velling-Childs connection, but at the same time, it's like they were probably keying on Velling.
For sure.
So maybe they were taking that away most of the time, just assuming they'd go to him, especially in the red zone. But, you got to love the defense. This, again, we talked about it earlier. It's a team that scared me a little bit anyway, the FAU team, just because of what they got at head coach. He's a proven winner, going, into his second year now with kids that he knows. Honestly, Tom Herman hasn't been a loser anywhere. And that was a game that really scared me. That's why it was one of the ones that really excited me, because I wanted to see how they did. If they were able to run FAU out, I'd be like, dang, okay. That shows me something.
Those guys were fired up too for that game too.
Oh yeah, dude, and F the quarterback. Okay.
Yeah, I did not like.
That kid wears that helmet loose for that.
Yeah.
I've never seen a helmet. I've never seen that many helmets. I don't know if I've seen a helmet fly off of that many players in general in a season, let alone one game.
Right. Yeah.
And I think he does it, which is smart, until the end of the game when they didn't call it anymore.
Yeah.
Because then it's obvious, I think, to everybody, like, okay, like you're going for that call.
Right.
And then it's BS. But whatever. Defense played good. We'll see what happens. Maryland, maybe it'll be good to get out of East Lansing and just see, maybe feel a little bit of less of that home pressure too, because they said he is, at the end of the day, he is 18.
Mhm.
and it was his first start, and it was a pretty much packed house.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't have that interception first play, and things go differently.
Right.
But it happened, and it is what it. And I don't even, it wasn't even like a bad interception. Like I watched, I was
No,
like,
it wasn't
I
his
mean,
fault. Right.
but we didn't really regroup after that.
Nope.
So Nathan Carter just cannot get it going.
No, he could not.
I don't know why.
And they kept giving him the ball.
Yeah.
I was wondering why they wouldn't just keep Adams in for most of the game at that point. I mean, he was the only one getting anything going.
Yeah.
But
What would that say, Bill? 9 carries?
Yeah.
Yeah, he should have at least had 15.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, so I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, it was week 1, so it's good to get that out. You still walked away with a win. You just have to build and see what happens.
Agreed.
Yeah, we will see. Michigan played Fresno State at the Big House, won 30-10 in another game that was very rough to watch. I mean, you take away the pick 6 by Will Johnson at the end of the game, it's 23-10. Davis Warren, 15-25, 118, a touchdown interception. Khalil Mullings, 15 carries, 92 yards. Colson Loveland, 8 receptions, 87 yards, and a touchdown. One of the bigger stats, I think, was Mikey Keene, Fresno State's quarterback. He was 22 of 36 for 235 and a touchdown. They kept the run game at bay, which was nice. Secondary, it's a different story, I guess. A lot of guys looked out of position at times. Another big story for me, anyway, is Donovan Edwards had 11 carries for 27 yards. And he's had games like that, but I mean, for someone who's supposed to be the lead back now, and Khalil Mullings having 92 yards, I mean, he ran tough, which was fine. But really need for this team this year is going to go where Donovan Edwards goes. If he can be the dynamic player that he is. The problem is the offensive line doesn't look as good as it was last year. But Donovan, they're really going to need him to be the explosive back that he can be. Because Khalil Mullings, it's fine. He's a tough runner. He'll get you gritty yards, to take that from the Lions, but he's just a gritty, hard runner. You know what I mean? He's going through the tackles. He's not bouncing stuff outside. And they need that because Davis Warren ain't it. I mean, I don't care. I mean, they just ran the most basic playbook in the world.
18-year-old in his first start, man,
Is he 18? I don't think he's 18.
No, I'm just
I was gonna say I think he's like a senior.
That was just the excuse I was using all week. So.
It was pretty evident, I guess, at times to see why Orji is not starting. I know he only threw 3 passes, but they were not good passes.
But one of them was a touchdown.
Yeah.
Big play.
Dude, he's hitting touchdowns on 33% of his passes.
33% of his passes, yeah. And we'll get into our predictions for this weekend. There's not much else to say on. I don't know if you guys have anything to say on that. I don't know if I covered it all.
For me, it was a lot of the same as with Michigan State. Just chemistry wasn't there. They don't really know who their guy is yet at quarterback. So it's a different team. We'll just have to see what happens going into the season.
I mean, we've talked about it before. They've replaced a ton of starters. It's week 1. You really got to take it with a grain of salt moving forward. And I think that's a lot of us just trying to, for me, it's ebbing my own doubts. So I'm like, okay, that was rough to see. But truthfully, it is the first week, and it is a ton of new people. I'm not even, you could pick either team. A ton of new people, a lot of different things happening. You played a fairly tough non-conference, at least a well-coached, put-together squads, right? I mean, Fresno State, they can do some stuff. FAU, they can, at least under the program they got going now. So it's like, okay, maybe that was a good test to have in the first week, and then you see what happens from there. It gives you things to correct for the big game. Like, they both have big games for themselves. I mean, Michigan game is bigger in a national sense, but they're both big games for the programs this weekend. And so I think it was great to get that stuff out of the way. I think Michigan's going to look better than they did, and I think Michigan State should. And if they're not, then it's going to be a long year.
Yeah. Well, let's get into week 2 picks real quick, because we'll start with Texas, Michigan. Michigan's a 7-point underdog. Over under is 42.5. I think the one thing that helps Michigan this week is that, well, for one, it's at home, and 2, it's at noon.
They're the only Michigan team at home this weekend.
Yeah.
Or major one.
Yep. I think that's a huge help. It being at noon, I think if it's at night, it kind of makes Texas feel a little more comfortable. I mean, it's not that big of a stretch for 2 hours, but how many games are they playing at 10 a.m. their time? You know what I mean? So it is what it is. Obviously, I have Michigan winning. I think it's going to be a super close game. I would probably say, I mean, I'll take, because I have Michigan winning anyway, I'll take the points. I'll leave the over under at what it is. I think it might be, it'll depend. If Michigan wins, it'll be under. If Texas wins, it's definitely going to be over. So.
Yeah, that's that was a game I was having trouble kind of picking, because yes, Michigan didn't look great in week 1, but it's still week 1. It's at the Big House, like you said. It's at noon. It's a tough game to call. I do think that I was going to take Texas, and the over was going to be my pick this week. It pains me.
It is tough, dude. It's hard not to take Texas just based on what you see in week 1. But Michigan can beat them.
Yes.
So that's where it makes it tough, So I feel like I want Michigan with the points. But if I was just betting just to pick a win, I would have to put it on Texas. And that's tough. That's a tough one. If I had to, it's just like Texas looked a lot better than Michigan last week.
Right.
They just did.
I mean, they're a good team.
They're a really good freaking team. And so you're like, team too. You want to see Michigan do better, but Michigan, dude, it's at home. It's noon on a Saturday, man. I mean, you feel good about Michigan winning.
A matchup you never have seen in Ann Arbor.
Yeah. So it's super cool. It's a great game to have put on the schedule. It hurts neither team in the long run to lose.
Right.
Unless you get just trashed, and then that just kills you the rest of the way. Even then, I think either team can just put it back together and make the playoff. So, but it looks good that you played the game in general.
Right.
So I think it's a nice game between two teams that could both be in the playoff at the end of the year. Right now it's hard not to take Texas, and I think the majority of America is probably going to say money line. I'm taking Texas, but I like Michigan to cover.
Yeah.
That's why I took the over, because I was like, I think Michigan will cover it, but it's hard to tell.
I will play the cover more than I would the money line. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
it just feels like it's going to be that way.
Right.
Mm.
MSU at Maryland. Maryland 9.5 point favorite at home.
Ooh.
Over under is 44.5. I've got MSU covering. That'd be my bet.
MSU covering. My heart,
half.
my
That's
heart
brutal.
wants me to take Michigan State, but my eyes have told me otherwise. They just can't play offense like that. And Maryland is a much better defense than what FAU is probably going to give you. I mean, it's a different team, different guys, but if you're going off of last year, Maryland was one of the better defenses in the Big Ten. So it's hard not to take Maryland, and I'm going to take I'm actually going to take the under because I don't know what the score is going to be. So Maryland and the under.
Yeah, I mean the under is the only thing I want to play.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
After what went down, I think that's going to be a hot one potentially to play the under. But I mean, it's exactly like we were just talking about. Maryland just looks so much better than Michigan State did in week 1, and it's hard to tell based on who you're playing if they're that good or whatever, because it was week 1. Nobody knows how good anybody is, really. And you don't even know how good you are.
Right.
Just because they're all like scrimmages. For the big programs, they're all scrimmages. Just trying to figure it out. But anyway, so if I have to bet right now, I will take Maryland money line. Michigan State. Yeah, I feel good about them covering 9.5. I think they'll at least play decent enough to cover 9.5 and the under.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Next up, Eastern Michigan is at Washington this weekend. Washington 25 point favorite at home. Over under is 47.5. I'm going to go with the over 47.5.
What's the spread on that?
25.
Washington, obviously.
They're good at the spreads, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. As much as I think Eastern has improved, I mean, I'm obviously taking Washington. I don't think that's a question. Really, it just comes down to the over.
Who'd
under
Washington pound last week? Any idea? I don't know off the top of my head.
I don't know. Somebody pounded them real good.
I mean, for it to still be
Filled 'em right up.
25, I'm guessing they spanked somebody.
Yeah, more than likely. I'm gonna give Eastern its credit. I'm gonna say they'll cover that. I'll say they'll cover the 25.
Weber State 35-3.
Yeah, I'll take Washington and Eastern to cover it.
Both of them to cover? That's solid, dude.
And
What should you play? I'll do both, please. Yeah, I mean, oh no, Washington's covering. I think this is one of the. It feels like a trap, and that's why I suck at betting. So it feels like a trap, right? Like Eastern should cover. So I really feel like I should take Washington to cover. And so it's at Washington. Eastern, it's not like Eastern. Yeah, they controlled the game when we look back. I mean, they played whoever. I don't even remember. I already erased that note off.
UMass.
UMass, you know?
That's a good squad.
At 20, I it was 28-7 was really the score. So you beat UMass by 3 touchdowns. Washington beats Weber by 20 or 32. Eastern covers.
Eastern.
I'll go Washington.
Washington to cover.
Washington cover.
Lock it.
All right,
That is not
real
all.
quick, Western at Ohio State. Ohio State 37.5-point favorite. Over under is 54. I have Western covering.
I mean, 37.5 is a lot of points. What's the over under
Bill,
on
who'd
that?
your Buckeyes spank last week?
Ohio State. They beat. I was watching that game for a little bit. Akron.
Were you watching the calls? You try and send them in.
I've started my own manifesto.
You've
I read
dialed
their
into the
lips. I'm a lip
headsets
reader.
He's a lip reader. What's the over under for that game?
It is 54.
54. Man, those are
Talk
both.
about two teams that I don't want to watch.
I
No
feel like
kidding.
Ohio State's going to score like 48 points, and then Western might score one touchdown.
So
I'm obviously Ohio State for the money line, and then
at minus 3,000, I'll take.
Yeah.
take that.
The
Trust
bu-
me, that's easy money, brother.
That's a lock.
That is a lock. I guess Western to cover. I guess.
It is a ton. They got to feel pretty good about playing close with Wisconsin. But does that make Ohio State take them more seriously?
No.
Like just a little bit? Like
Maybe.
you got to put these guys down right away?
I guess it's what does Ohio State like? What do they put like the stock into Wisconsin? What's their stock in Wisconsin? What do they think of them?
Fair.
And then you know what I
Fair.
mean? Like, do they really consider?
Yeah,
them a
that may
threat?
have not have changed anything. You're right. Because any year Wisconsin could beat Western 28-14. Any year. A year they
Year.
win the Big Ten. I don't even know if they've done that. Or they did it once in
Probably
like the last
close,
25 years. I don't know. But that year they probably beat Western 28-14, right? So yeah, it's so hard to say. Western to cover 37.
37.5.
That is just it's just too many.
That's
To
so
a
many
team
points.
that at least played with a Big Ten team.
Right.
So it's like I got to take Western to take the points.
All right.
But that just makes you feel it's like the last week or the last game. It just feels like that means we should be taking OSU to win by 50.
That's
True.
And they might.
Well,
Yeah.
they could.
All right. Last game. CMU at Florida International. CMU 5.5-point favorite on the road. Over under is 51.5. I'm gonna go with the under.
That's probably a good call.
You didn't watch
FIU
Labus sling it?
FIU is not
66
Central
points, dog.
You are not wrong. They are not Central Connecticut. They are probably quite a bit
Central
better.
Connecticut State. Get it right.
I'll take CMU to cover it.
Yeah. CMU to cover that. I'm curious. The one thing I was thinking about was what the line was before last week, before that last game, because I don't feel like I think you saw Labus out there, and it's like, okay, I mean that looks good. Now, granted, it was Central Connecticut State University, but still, I don't think that would have happened if Bert's in either. Unless he's running it all the time.
Right.
I'm pleasantly surprised that he didn't start Bert Emanuel.
How could you?
Labus is clearly the right guy.
He can throw a ball. Yeah.
Yeah, because he actually
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So
It's huge.
all right. You know what? I'll take Central to cover 2 for lock of the week. All right, real quick,
That's
let's
a
do
lock.
the Lions, the weekly Tigers update. The weekly Tigers updates brought to you by Adobo Boy. Adobo Boy is the official sponsor of the BDE Sports Talk podcast. Eddie, Dean, and I, big fans, big Filipino Americans, and we love a delicious Filipino meal. And Adobo Boy delivers just that with their amazing food and vibes that are unmatched in the food industry. Not only do they have delicious food, they also go against the grain of traditional restaurant and tinker with their menu to bring you an amazing variety of Filipino cuisine. Their menu rotates weekly, so there's always a reason to come back to try more authentic Filipino food. One dish you can always count on is Red's Pork Adobo Bowl. Dean, give us the skinny on that tasty little number.
Give us the skinny on that fat little dish.
On my fat little body. Tender pork, braised in soy sauce and vinegar on a bed of rice with Jackie's achar or papaya salad, cucumber, and a fried egg. It is fantastic. You should just eat it separately like I do, or you could mix it all together like Bill and Ed do. It's worth buying too, just to try it for yourself. It's worth it.
I agree. So if you're into trying new and different foods, or just like some amazing adobo and vibes, stop in and say hi to owners Ace, Jackie, and Son Red, who are amazing people who genuinely care about your experience at Adobo Boy. Eddie, tell the people what they get if they go to Adobo Boy and they listen to our podcast.
You get a genuine experience, isn't that right, Bill? That's
right.
Super genuine. At the minimum, and well, when you walk in, you get the aroma. You get the smell. You breathe in, and you just know you're there, baby. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. You just take it all in. You just keep wafting it up your nostrils, and you're gonna love every second of it. And then you get up to the front when you get the chance to order your food. You just say BD Sports Talk Podcast.
Let's go.
You get 5% off. I mean, you just walk up there, you order the food, you get 5% off just by saying BD Sports Talk Podcast. You walk back to your table, you take in the aromas again. You get the food, the amazing food, and you're just going to enjoy yourself completely. So from beginning to end, you walk in, you enjoy the ambiance, you enjoy the place, you get to order the food, you get to say BD Sports Talk Podcast, you get 5% off, which you wouldn't have otherwise. They're just going to give you 5% off just saying BD Sports Talk Podcast, and you get to go to your table, you get to eat your delicious food, and you get to leave happy.
So if you want that 5% off, you want that delicious adobo, you want those amazing vibes, Adobo Boy is open Tuesday to Friday, 11:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. for lunch and 5 to 7:30 for dinner. Saturday, get there at 11:30 and get your adobo before college football. They are open from 11:30 to 2 p.m. and 5 to 8:30 for dinner. But get there, they'll probably be gone if you get there late. So is that darn good. Adobo Boy is located at 3740 28th Street, Southeast Kentwood, Michigan, inside the Amazing Myanmar restaurant. Amazing Myanmar on your right, Brunch and Rice on your left, and right in the middle, Adobo Boy. All the smells and vibes that you can get. Get there, get fed, get happy. It is always better at Adobo Boy. All right. Weekly Tigers update, fellas. And I don't know where my notes went for it. So, okay. I don't have any notes for them. All I know is the last I had, they were 5.5 back in the wild card for the last wild card, 10 back in the Central. Young guy's been playing pretty well. I mean, Eddie, you brought it up the last episode. The false hope, right? They played the White Sox. They played the Angels, two of the worst teams in the AL. Haven't done as well with the Padres, but still clawing. I mean, Javi's done for the year, so
Oh no!
what will we ever do?
I might go on a streak.
Fellas, it's not looking great, but do you believe that they can make a 5.5, make it to the playoffs? I can see it in your face.
There's like 22 games left, roughly. Something
21.
like that for them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not impossible for them to make up 5.5. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think there's enough time. And I don't know if any of these guys are there yet to really make that push.
That's what you said at 9.5.
And I'm still saying it right now. So consistency. It's consistent. But I've been saying, I don't think there's enough games to make that up. I don't think anybody's gonna slide that hard, even if they were to go on some weird winning streak. I just don't think there's enough games left for them to make that fully up. But crazier things have happened. So
have they? Name them. Name one.
Name your top 5 wackiest moments.
No, they're not making the playoffs. It's not happening. They're losing tonight again, so they're about to be under 500 again. So they're probably going to be 6 games out from the wild card. They have now, granted, they have the next 2 series are against the A's and Rockies. So again, potential fool's gold. You hope for 4 wins out of those 6 games, but then you have 2 series with the Orioles, another one with the Royals and Rays. Perfect. So if you could take a couple of those series, maybe, because then you finish with the White Sox. Maybe.
It's setting it up.
No, it's not.
A miracle.
It's not. This is like that team I've talked about before with Candelario and Scope and those guys. Like, this is what it feels like. And I feel like we're going to go into next season and there's going to be the hope again. I guess the only difference is these guys are mostly all young guys. Mostly is strong. But there's some. And you got to hope that they're going to take a step. And then I'm guessing we're not going to sign anybody worthwhile. And so you got to hope these guys again can get 10 games better next year.
Not impossible.
No. But is it likely?
You'll be eating crow.
As long as we keep our salary cap
I would love
low,
that,
we're
Bill.
good, man.
Feed me the crow.
That schedule sets up for a postseason.
If the Tigers are in the playoffs, I'll eat it. And I would love it. I'd love every second of it. But they're not going to be there.
You're like,
so if I'm eating crow, if that happens, you're eating ass because it's not happening. It's just not happening.
Is it Major League where like the announcer is just so negative towards the team?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. But dude, we only got 21 games left after tonight.
The schedule says it all.
Yeah, we only have 3 total series. Right? But then the other 4 series are against good teams who are also trying to make the playoffs.
Exactly. Setting it up for one.
So, if we kick off and like beat the Orioles in the first series that we have the Orioles, then sure. It looks like it could happen.
Let's go. They got the Royals past the Royals. Oh, good.
I mean, that's what you need. You got to win that series with the Royals.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We've been 5 to 8 games behind them all year.
These cats are ready to scratch.
What do you think? You feel like they're going? You feel like it's happening?
No, I truthfully,
Oh,
I
they're
just
ready to
don't-
scratch, kitty cat.
The fact that they're even at 500 is probably more of an accomplishment than what I thought was going to happen.
Oh yeah, that's a big
That's
one.
fair.
If you can go 500, that's what we're looking
well,
for.
I mean,
honestly,
did you think we were even going to get to 500 in June?
in June when they sucked,
Yeah.
like they suck now again. They suck, dude. They're about to get swept by the Padres.
What's the score?
Maybe.
Last I knew, it was 3-0.
Nah, that's too early.
I got it right here.
Too early. It's probably the 8th.
Seventh at the top of the seventh.
Is it 3-0?
Yeah, it is.
Top of the yeah, that's right.
They're in San Diego.
Yes.
Yes.
3-run inning coming up right now.
Coming up.
I mean, they were
served
they've
on a
done it.
platter, some would say.
Dude. You're talking like I don't want it to happen. I want it to happen really
you sound
bad.
like the guy in Major.
Yeah,
That
and how
just doesn't
pumped
wanna
was he
happen.
when they were making a run? Super pumped.
Didn't he get fired or something like that?
No.
Oh no, he didn't. No, that was a different movie. But he was super pumped. He stopped drinking.
Yeah. I'll stop drinking if the Tigers make the playoffs.
Well,
That's
get
easy.
ready, beer companies, because he ain't stopping the season.
Get ready, Natural Company, whatever. Whatever. And that's probably Bush Anheuser, but
Probably.
All right, well, let's get out of here. Good episode. Go Lions. Good luck to all the Michigan teams this weekend, and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Help three brothers out, and hope you all.
I mean,
have a
just
good
look at
week.
the logo. That's all you need to do.
Just look at the logo. Tap it. Tap the logo.
Tap it. Little tap, tap, tap.
Little tap. All right, for Bill, for Dean and Eddie, this is Bill.
For yourself.
Yeah, for myself, for the world. Everyone have a great week. See you next time on the Beat Sports Talk Podcast.
Sports Talk.